Welcome to Beyond SST Teacher Webinar. Today, we will be reviewing all of the updates and changes and how to navigate Beyond SST for teacher level users. Before we begin, I'd like to remind our users that there are a few rules to prevent any potential data loss. Beyond SST is a web-based system, which means we cannot use the back button or have multiple browser tabs open with Beyond SST as those tabs. Having multiple tabs of Beyond SST open does not allow the system to identify which tab to save, which can result in data loss. Utilizing the back button will also tell the system not to save and can result in data loss. To navigate Beyond SST, you will have one instance of the system with your login, and you will navigate always back to the homepage by clicking on the Beyond SST logo in the top left corner of the screen or anywhere else beneath the teal bar. On your dashboard, you will see 4 tiles. The first tile allows you to identify any potential follow-up meetings that you have for students within the next 30 days. By clicking on the tile, you will see the student's name, their date of birth, the status of the student, as well as when the follow-up meeting is scheduled, and a pencil icon that will allow you to go in and begin editing forms. In addition to follow-up 50 SST meetings, you will see a notification for follow-up 504 meetings, as well as triennials, and your upcoming progress monitoring. Progress monitoring is one of the critical components of Beyond SST, as it allows teams to identify if the interventions are working or if there is room for improvement. Without progress monitoring, it's very hard to make next step decisions in determining if the student should continue with the SST or be referred for assessment for a 504 or IEP. Clicking on the progress monitoring tile, you will be able to access a list of students who have progress monitoring that is due or overdue. Clicking on the pencil icon will take you to the progress monitoring page where you will be able to complete progress monitoring. You'll notice that if the progress monitoring is overdue, it will appear in red, letting you know that you missed the progress monitoring for that week. Progress monitoring should not take more than 5 minutes per student. At the bottom of your home screen, you will see a news announcement. These are news announcements that are posted and provided by your district or your school site. These are not announcements from CodeStack. Please pay attention to these announcements as your district or school felt whatever information they posted was important. At the top of your toolbar, you'll see a bell notification icon. This lets you know if documents have been affirmed, if pending students have been added. It really is just a little Post-it system. You can mark the Post-its as red, or you can throw the Post-it in the trash by clicking on the X. Best practice is to have all of these removed unless they are needed, so that as new notifications appear, you will see that they have been added. Next to the notification bell is the help desk. This is where you can contact Beyond SST for support with Beyond SST's system. Please note, the help desk is not able to assist you with forgotten passwords, adding or removing students, telling you what to put on forms or which forms to use, or what the time frame is. They are able to assist you if you are having errors in saving or cannot find things when you are navigating the system. Next to the help desk is your user account. Here we need to verify a few things just to ensure that your account is set correctly. Verify that your name is spelled correctly, that you are listed as a teacher level user, and that the school or multiple schools you work with are listed here. The most important part is ensuring that you have a current and correct email address. This is the only way you will be able to reset your password should you accidentally lock yourself out. Your school site administration cannot reset the password, and neither can CodeStack. Next to your account is the Help Center. In the Help Center, you will find the user's guide, the teacher's cheat sheet, as well as the release notes that CodeStack releases as they make updates to the system. You can expect to see releases and updates about every 3 to 4 weeks, as CodeStack is continually developing and improving features within the system. Next to the Help Center is going to be the student listing. For teachers, the student listing is going to show all of the students that you are currently providing supports to or monitoring within Beyond SST. This will not be every student in your class, only those students who are in any of the stages of the SST or 504 process. Here you can see that you have all of your students listed with their name, their date of birth, their grade level, their SST status, the school that they attend, and then The clock icon will allow you to look at all of their old historical documents, while the 3-line icon will allow you to begin to access the students' forms. If you would like to filter down and identify students within a specific status, at the top of the student listing, you can tell the system to show you only those students who are pre-SST or only those students that you have on a 504 plan. It will allow you to filter down and identify those specific students. The student add request is where teachers will submit requests to have students activated on their class list. This add request is sent to your site administrator or SST coordinator, where they will conduct a search across the state database to see if there is an existing SST record. Please make sure that all of the information that you enter matches the information in your school information system. You'll notice the required fields have a red asterisk, so you know those fields must be completed. For the student gender, again, this must match your school information system. This is to prevent any potential errors in CalPADS should a student be referred for special education or 504, as those fields are reportable. In addition, if you know the student's unique 10-digit SSID number, this is that number that's unique to the student through the California Department of Ed, please provide that. It will help to ensure that as your administration is looking for records within the state, they are correctly asking for the right student. Indicate when you need the record activated by and any potential comments. Please note the comments do not save, so if you need to type a lot of information, it's best to wait until you have access to the student forms to type that. Here is an area where you can type simple things such as parents have requested the student support team, or you have noticed the student is struggling. Perhaps you've identified some areas of concern, or you'd also like to have additional teachers provide documentation on the student. Comments are not necessary. You can submit the request without the comment. It will allow you to see what your pending student list looks like. These are all of the students that you have requested your site administration add to BeyondSST. You can see that the site administrator has either not approved the request yet, they have rejected the request, or they have approved the request on the status bar. If you need to change your mind and decide that you don't want the student activated after all, clicking on the trash can icon for pending students will remove the request from your administrator's system. Approved students will show with a balloon that has a student in it. This allows you to access the student record. At this point, it is a digital Post-it note letting you know that the student has been activated. There's no reason to continue to keep this on your pending student list, as the student's information is available from the student listing. If you are a district that utilizes the API system between your school information system and BeyondSST, your add process will look slightly different. When you submit an add request, what you will see is a list of all of the students that are in your class. You will click the plus button to activate the add request, and then your site administration will receive the notification. You will not need to enter all of the students' demographic information that is already in the system as it's being pulled from your school information system. Pending students can be found from the student dropdown in addition to the add student request. Going back to our student listing, we'll begin to look at some of our students that we have in the system today. The students' names are listed on the left-hand side of the screen, in addition to their date of birth, their grade, and their status. If you need to find a specific student, you can type their name in at the top of the system, and it will filter down for you. Here we can begin working on the student record by clicking on the student's name. Permission levels will vary based off of each district and each school. In some cases, you may see a pencil icon located at the top of the screen. If you see a pencil icon, your site or district has given you permission to edit the fields within this page. At the top of the page, you will see all of the demographic information that you entered in the add request or that was transported over from your API. The student status will be listed in addition to any potential parent guardian information or attachments. Here's where you can attach samples of student work, previous records, letters from parents, anything that you feel is relevant to attach to the student record, but is not necessarily part of a student meeting. At the bottom of the page, you will see all of the teachers that have access to the student's record. In some cases, it may be multiple teachers who are providing support. In other cases, it may be just one individual teacher. Only those teachers who are listed under teacher assignment will have access to the student record and be able to provide any kind of documentation. The clock icon will allow you to access the student history. In the student history, you will be able to see all of the things that have occurred for the student. The student may have previous affirmed documents, they may have previous meetings. All of that information will be saved in the student history if they have any. This information will come from multiple schools in multiple districts if the student has been in the BeyondSST system with several different districts. If you'll allow me to look and see if I can find a student who already has a history, I'd be happy to show that to you. From the student listing, you can access the history, or from the student record. This is an example of a student that has significant student history. You can filter through and identify certain areas if you'd like. The affirmed history is all of the previous SST and 504 documents. Clicking on the little Post-it icon will tell you what kind of meeting it was and what forms were part of the SST meeting. The download icon will allow you to open up and view all of the documents from that previous SST meeting. This will give you a quick glimpse into what has already occurred with the previous district, previous teacher, or in past years. In addition to looking at previous SST documents, you can also look to see if the student has ever had a referral for special education or 504 by selecting referred. The Post-it note again will tell you what type of referral the student had. You can also look in here to see the different times the student has had their status changed. They have been moved from SST to pre-SST or pre-SST to SST 504. You'll be able to see how many times the student has gone through the SST process. Clicking on the little 3-line icon will allow us to go in and begin working on the student forms. The first form is the pre-SST intervention form. This is the form teachers will complete to share with their team all of the things that they have already tried within their classroom. You'll indicate the date that you began providing these supports, and then the remainder of the form is very clickbox heavy. Identify the general interventions that you may have already provided to your student and select the boxes. You'll notice that if other individuals have worked on their set of forms, that their answers will also appear. Your answers will appear in a teal box, while other individuals' answers will appear in a green box. You can view just your selections by selecting My Selections, or All Selections will allow you to see all of the fields that you have checked in addition to other users, such as other teachers or site administrators. There is a section that allows you to provide information on environmental accommodations, curriculum accommodations, assignment modifications, as well as homework and behavior, in addition to interventions that may have been tried at home. All of these fields are drop-down checkboxes. As you scroll to the bottom, there is a section to provide narrative information if none of the drop-down boxes provide the information that you'd like to share. At the bottom of the page, there is an area for administrative teams, cost teams, Tier 2 teams, Tier 3 teams to review the pre-SST form and indicate the date that they have reviewed the document, as well as what the next steps will be for the student. Perhaps they've decided that upon review that your document shows the student needs to be on an SST. They would indicate that the student is going to be on an SST. If your document shows that there's no need for an SST, they will indicate there is no need. If parents have submitted concerns, if they've called, sent a letter, written an email, please document parent concerns in the parent concerns area. At the bottom of every form, you have the ability to add attachments. This could be samples of student work, letters from parents, attendance printouts, anything that is relevant to this part of the SST process. In addition, each form will have its own status at the bottom, where you can indicate to your site administration that this form is ready for review. When forms are marked as ready for review, draft, or completed, the form will be flagged with the indication of what the form status is. If the form has not been marked completed by the due date, the form will show as overdue. To remove the overdue flag, the form must be changed to completed, which will allow you to indicate that the form is no longer needing to be reviewed. After the pre-SST intervention form has been completed, the next form will be the SST referral. This form allows us to collect data as far as what our concerns are and why we feel we should move forward with a formal SST. As you look at the form, it's again heavy checkboxes indicating what our students' interests and strengths are, in addition to the areas of concern. When you begin to select these boxes at the top, you can type in beginning phrases to identify areas of concern, or you can just scroll down the drop box and select the appropriate fields. You will see that there is areas for academic concerns, medical, language, motor, learning behavior, social emotional, as well as previous services that the student may have received, such as the SARB process, counseling, summer school, or if they've already gone through a special education process. The student's learning style can be flagged, and then there is another narrative box where you can provide more detail with regards to the student's concerns. Underneath this is all of the student's previous academic history. If these are not areas of concern, you do not have to complete these sections. However, other districts who will be receiving these forms from you should the student move will not have access to the school information system with this information and may have to wait for a CUME to show up. If the student has ever been retained, please indicate the grade the student was retained. If the student has attended multiple schools, please indicate how many schools the student has attended. There is an area to document attendance concerns. Here you'll simply select the grade that the student was in, the year that the student had these attendance, and what the attendance concerns look like. The system allows you to break down by absences that are excused, absences that are unexcused, and tardies. If these are areas of concern, please complete this section. You can add multiple years if you need to add multiple years to show a pattern of attendance problems. Underneath attendance is a section to allow us to document discipline. Again, if discipline is not a concern, then maybe this area does not need to be completed. But if discipline is a concern for the student, go ahead and complete this area, letting us know what the concerns are for the student. Underneath the attendance and discipline, you will also see components where you can complete concerns regarding statewide assessments, local assessments, and teacher and parent concerns. Clicking the Add button will allow you to create multiple fields if you need to create multiple fields for any of these areas. Under the teacher-parent concerns, you can indicate parent concerns if the parents have communicated to you their concerns, and you can also create a new field to indicate the concerns that you have as an individual teacher. You can indicate those here. Again, at the bottom of the form, we're able to add any attachments. This might be copies of the suspension log. This may be copies of the attendance or anything else that you'd like to attach. And then the ability to mark the form as draft, ready for review, or completed. If your student is an English language learner, there is an English language supplemental form that can be completed. As you look at this form, it's asking for the student's proficiency status in the English language. And as we scroll down, it's a lot of yes/no questions. This form can be completed by doing a parent interview over the phone or in person, or if you'd like, you can download the form in Spanish, print the form, and provide it to the parents to complete. However, all of the information that is entered into BeyondSST Forms that is translated into Spanish, anything in the text boxes will remain in English, as the only thing that is translated into Spanish is the content created by BeyondSST. At this point, the student is likely on a formal SST as we begin to use the SST intervention plan and monitoring. You'll see the student's status will be changed to SST in progress. This is typically done by your SST coordinator or site administrator. This is not a permission that is normally given to teachers. So if you see the student is not correctly listed with the right status, let your administrative team know. On the intervention plan and monitoring page, you will see that we are collecting lots of data. Here we are indicating when we began the SST, if parents are attending or being part of the process, any specific strategies the team is recommending. These are not necessarily strategies that we are collecting data on, but strategies that we would like to implement to ensure student success. There is an intervention checklist to let us know anything that we may have tried, again, where we are not collecting data, but feel that it is necessary for the student's success. And then we have all of our interventions for the student. BeyondSST does not have a limit and will allow you to add as many interventions as needed. Your student could potentially have several academic, behavioral, and social emotional interventions listed. Interventions are created by clicking the Add Focused Intervention box. When we open the intervention box, it allows us to title our intervention, provide a detailed description of what the intervention will look like, as well as when the intervention is going to start and when we expect the intervention to end. Most interventions will run at a minimum of 6 weeks and no more than 8 weeks. This is done to ensure that we have adequate time to see if the intervention is working, but not too much time that the student becomes a child find. How often are we providing this intervention to our student? Is it daily, weekly, bi-weekly? How many minutes the intervention is going to be provided, and who is providing this? Perhaps it's the classroom teacher, perhaps it's the classroom paraprofessional or one-on-one aide, your school psychologist, behavior technician, whoever is going to be providing that should be documented. Whoever is completing the progress monitoring will be listed under progress or monitored by. And then we need to select the delivery method. Is the student receiving this intervention one-on-one, in a small group, or are they being pulled to an intervention class? The monitoring tools will be whatever we are using to determine if the intervention is working. This could be pre-test and post-test. This could be check-in, check-out. It could be some type of curriculum that has a number of lessons completed before we do a benchmark assessment. All of this information should be completed. The SST intervention plan and monitoring page is designed to be completed by the team. This is not just a teacher form, but a team form where everyone is collaborating together. We will need to provide baseline information so we know where the student is at the time the intervention was created, and then a goal date and goal information for where we hope the student will be after we have completed 6 to 8 weeks of intervention support. All of the interventions will be listed, and at the bottom of the page, we will indicate if parents are going to be involved or if there is a need for a follow-up. As long as we have indicated that there is a need for a follow-up meeting and we've placed a date in this box, you will receive a notification on your homepage. If there is no date placed in this box, you will not receive a notification, as the system cannot calculate 30 days from a blank box. At the bottom of the form again, we have the ability to add our attachments, indicate that the form is complete, and continue. The progress monitoring is also completed on the intervention plan and monitoring page. As I go into the intervention plan and monitoring page, I will find the intervention that I am working on. And at the bottom of each of the interventions is an Add Progress Monitoring button. Here I can indicate the date, the frequency with which I have provided this progress monitoring or this documentation, the type of data or intervention that we have, as well as the outcome. Did the intervention work this week? Is the student still declining, or was there no change? From the dropdown, you will see your name or the name of any teacher who has been assigned to the student. Here you can indicate the score for the student, as well as any comments. A good practice is, if you are providing an intervention that has multiple areas of concern, provide a few details in the comments box that lets us know if all of the areas are working or if only certain areas are working, and you can make improvements when you review the intervention in those other areas. In addition, if the student is struggling or is very excited and enthusiastic, this is a great place to document the student's desire to work within the intervention. The follow-up meeting for all of your SSTs after the initial SST meeting will be conducted through the intervention plan review form. The intervention plan review is where we will review the outcome of the intervention. You'll see there is a date box indicating if the parents have attended, were interventions implemented, and was data collected. If you do not have progress monitoring, it is very hard to proceed past this point because we do not have the data needed to make next step decisions. Looking at the previous goals that were set for the student will indicate if we had academic or if we had behavioral, if we had health goals, and we'll provide the details of those goals. In the boxes below, you'll be able to indicate if the student met the goal or if they did not meet the goal, if they exceeded the goal or if they only showed promise. Here you can indicate what that looks like, along with any details regarding how the student did. In addition, we need to document if anything affected the intervention. This could be that the teacher was absent, the student was absent, something happened at home, perhaps there was an ulterior motivation. Grandma was visiting and shared with the student that if they did really good this week, she'd take them for a treat. And when grandma left, everything returned back to normal. Grandma was the factor. What we're looking here is to ensure that there's no outside influence that's affecting the intervention. And if there is, that we are not using that outside influence to make a decision. We'll indicate if we are going to exit the student because they no longer need the SST, or if we are going to continue, if we are going to make modifications, or if the student is going to be referred for special education or for a 504 plan. Depending on what the decision is, will determine what the next steps are. In some cases, students may be referred for special education and not qualify. As they have no support through special education, they may continue to be on an SST for the remainder of the school year because they still need support, but they are not a candidate that's eligible for special education. All of your previous interventions will be documented down here below. You'll be able to go in and look at your previous progress monitoring. If progress monitoring was completed, it will show the progress monitoring log. Any changes to the interventions here will allow you to continue to progress monitor utilizing the new intervention. At the bottom of the forms list, you will see there is a notes page. The notes page allows for teachers to document notes that have been occurring during the SST process. In addition to taking notes during the meeting, this is also an area where you can document phone conversations with parents, parent-teacher conference information, and save all of that information. Best practice is to affirm documents at least once a month. For teachers, clicking on the intervention plan and monitoring page will allow you to come in and affirm the document. This is how we create a permanent non-editable PDF for the history. Select the checkbox of the form or forms that you would like to affirm and click the padlock. Here you can indicate any kind of comment, and then you can select your reason. If you are doing progress monitoring, you may indicate that this is your progress monitoring for the month of September or your progress monitoring for the month of August. If you are affirming for some other reason, indicate what the reason is in the affirm comments box and select other. Once you have filled out all of the areas that you need, you can click the affirm button and your documents will be sent to the student history. If no changes have been made and you try to affirm, the affirm will not be successful. In addition to accessing the SST forms, you will see 504 forms. For teachers, it is important to look at the accommodation plan. This is where all of the accommodations that have been put in place for the student will be listed. As a teacher, you are legally responsible for providing these accommodations to the student. Please look at your accommodation plan to identify if the student has any special services, curriculum designation, behavior intervention plan, or healthcare plan. If your student has a behavior intervention plan, the behavior intervention plan will be located towards the bottom of the forms list where it says behavior intervention. Any healthcare plans will need to be uploaded and attached to the form at the bottom. BeyondSST does not have a healthcare plan for 504s. The subject area will allow you to identify where the accommodations are being provided to the student and if those accommodations are being provided for a single subject or multiple subjects. You'll also be able to see what the accommodations look like for the student, and any details that pertain to those accommodations will be listed here. Most districts do not allow their teachers to edit the 504 accommodations page. You will only be able to view the accommodations. At the bottom of the accommodations, you will see state testing. If your student has any testing accommodations, it will say with testing accommodations, and the areas that the student can have accommodations will be completed. You will notice that students have the ability to have the accommodations embedded or non-embedded and supports embedded or non-embedded. These supports should be provided to the student from the beginning of the school year up until testing begins so that the student is comfortable and familiar and not learning for the very first time during their testing what these accommodations feel like. Testing accommodations are available on the 504 page for English, math, science, PE, the DRDP, as well as LPAC and the alternative to LPAC. This is the entire accommodation plan for your students. Please make sure you have familiarized with yourself with the accommodation plan, as teachers are responsible for providing these accommodations to students and can face litigation if they choose not to. At the top of your toolbar, you will also see there is a reports section. The reports section will allow you to identify different things within your student listing. One of the most important is overdue forms. This will allow you to see any forms that you have that have not been completed or updated and are marked as overdue. If you don't have any students on this list, you're doing a great job. The overdue students will also allow you to see any students who have not had any documents affirmed, had any status change, or really are showing as though they have not had any action taken within the last 45 days. Again, if you have no students showing up on this list, you're doing a great job. If you have questions regarding BeyondSST, need support, or want to just ask for any kind of support that you can get, please contact the help desk. Thank you for joining us today.